Hi, it's Jeff.
And Denise from mousesteps.com.
And this is episode number 341
341
of Mousesteps Weekly.
Sponsored by MEI Travel and Mouse Fan Travel. Thank you to our sponsor. We really, we appreciate it so much. And I expect that they're busy right now modifying trips due to the closures. Hopefully travel will start again in a few months. There's no way to know that. But I think this is, for me, one of the reasons to use a travel planner is so, when things do open back up, they can start working on that, or they can actually do the modifying of the trips and such. So I think in these days, it's, that's something that's really important.
Right. So much has changed since our last show last week.
So I thought we were going to end up going to the parks over the weekend. We chose to sit Sunday out because, of everything that is going on, and they were about to close, and we don't want to spread anything. But others went, and our good friend Curious Axel chose to go to the parks on Sunday, and he sent us a little bit of video.
This was at the very end of the night at the last park that was opened in the world at the time, and it was the Magic Kingdom, and there's Mickey and Minnie waving goodbye.
And Josh Domaro, who was also saying goodbye, including to the college program people, the cast members who were on their way out, very quickly. This all happened so quickly last week. And also, because Axel and Eliza, they don't actually have their house built yet. It's still in the middle of it. They decided to keep their trip to the boardwalk. They were staying at the boardwalk.
Right. So while they were there, they were able to go and take a look at the Magic Kingdom. This was the first day it was closed, and you can see it from the monorail. There is nobody around. I like that the American flag was still up at the time, and you could see that they were still doing work. They were still, at that point, they were still doing painting on the castle.
And you can tell that there was a lot of, if you're going to social distance, actually, Walt Disney World was a pretty good place during these last few days, I guess, to do it. The resorts, while the parks did close on Sunday, the resorts are open till today was the last day. So I think that they're probably just about shut down at this point, unless, last guest leaving.
That's right. That's right. And you can see just a little last look here. We did take a drive, didn't get out of the car, but we took a drive around and saw some of the Magic Kingdom and the Contemporary and what was going on. And we'll show that shortly.
That was yesterday, just so that we could kind of see, a little bit. I don't know that if we'll even be able to get on property anymore for a few months. So no way to know this, but there is Mickey in front of the train station.
Yeah, what we're going to see now is a montage of some pictures that Curious Axel sent us from his day of exploring while he was staying at the hotel. He checked out yesterday, and he had checked in on the very last day of the parks being opened, so it was a previously scheduled trip. And again, his house is still being built. He's staying at an Airbnb, so he felt it was actually safer there.
It's really sad for me to look at these photos because, a couple of weeks ago, they had said online or on the news, the health experts, I went to Disneyland and,
you were just at Disneyland just a little over a week ago.
Right. And they said, it should be okay to travel and everything. And all of a sudden it's not. Like everything was okay until
it wasn't.
And, it felt very fast when it did. But here's a monorail. There was nobody in it.
Right. And at this time, it was only running the resort loop, and it was only running one car. And they would ask you where you want to go. And depending on where it was, that's where they would stop. And according to Axel, that ended on Wednesday. That was the last day of it.
I think any form of transportation pretty much ended on Wednesday. So we had just learned also that Cedar Fair, who runs the fantastic Knott's Berry Farm, said they don't expect to open till at least mid-May or hopefully soon thereafter. Oh, and we're just looking at the Grand Destino. So I expect that we're going to hear something at some point from Disney saying, something similar. And I also thought maybe it would be, we thought a few months. And, it could be May, it could be June. There's no way to know. There is no way to know.
Right, everybody asked, but nobody knows right now.
But hopefully they can figure something out. The only way we know is looking at Shanghai, which has been able to open a little bit of Disneytown within 2 to 3 months after this started for them.
Close to 3 months, I think.
At least 2. So if America can kind of get its collective act together, maybe we can do that. But the most important thing is everybody stays healthy.
And that was a little Fort Wilderness you just saw empty. I believe this is the Beach Club. Boy, everything was so empty. And this was the very first day. He said it was a ghost town by the time he checked out yesterday on Thursday.
It would have been, I don't know that I would have wanted to do that. It would be too sad, to see it like that. It's hard to believe. And, a lot of times people ask me about rides and about other things, if it's temporary or permanent. And to me, everything in life is temporary, and
This
everything.
proves that theory very correctly.
It's incredible to me.
So here we are. This was yesterday, and we decided to take a little drive around Walt Disney World property before all the resorts and probably everything closes down for good for at least a month, if not more.
Yeah, I think a couple months or more. It was actually a little busier than I thought on the roads, and of course, you have cast members working at all of the resorts. You have, the speedways are open, the Swan and Dolphin. I think everything's kind of getting moved over to the Swan right now.
Right.
I don't know if that will stay open, but here is the Walt Disney World sign.
We did see something interesting, though, something timely. I know they said they were halting all construction,
Well,
but when we were going by over here by the Hollywood Studios, that little bridge that used to happen, I see little construction going on. Maybe that was something that could be done with a small crew, but as you could see, they were continuing to take that bridge down.
And by they, we just, rumors online, like I don't know what the status of construction is, but we saw at least 3 or 4 areas where there were construction crews. That doesn't mean that anything is going on in the parks, and I know that there will be people flying over, the vloggers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that
Yeah,
I'll be
I don't
flying
think we'll
over.
be doing any flying anytime soon.
But, I guess that's the only way that we'll know what's going on in the parks, is when, Blog Mickey will mention Blog Mickey, or Attractions Magazine, our friends over there, take a plane over, and who knows.
I think they were in a helicopter.
Or in a helicopter. Yeah, I don't like flying in a helicopter.
Anyway, here is a last look for us at the Contemporary and the Magic Kingdom. We had to do a U-turn there. We're going to go by the Polynesian, which I would have loved to go in there and gone to Trader Sam's, but that had been closed. There's a Disney bus, actually, but it was, unfortunately, the Magical Express, probably going to the airport.
And just look how much traffic there was. And obviously, it's nowhere near a normal day, but, there was life on property. We saw cast members going to their jobs, and look at all the buses are right here.
This was unbelievable to see all the Disney buses parked in the Magic Kingdom parking lot, all lined up. And who would have thought there were so many buses around Walt Disney World? And you can see quite a few of them have the painting on them.
Yeah, I figured there was a lot, but to actually see what was probably most of the buses sitting here in the parking lot was pretty incredible.
Yeah, and it continued even after the break. So, as you said, lots and lots of the buses there. And now we're heading out on our way to I-4, and we're going to pass Disney Springs. And there was a little bit of positive news that happened over the week involving the Walt Disney World Resort food supply.
Well, Walt Disney World and Disneyland had started donations of surplus food to help local communities. This is something that they do anyway. But of course, this is a very different
Scale,
time. Yes,
certainly as well.
At least at one time. So each year, Disney World and Disneyland donate more than 1.2 million meals to Second Harvest Food Bank, and that's on Disneyland and at both coasts.
Oh, they have a Second Harvest at
Yes.
Disneyland as well?
Well, in the Disneyland area, that's their local food bank. And Disney also gives monetarily, and then they have like the Disney Volunteers. Those are Disney cast members who volunteer, and so Second Harvest is a big deal for the Walt Disney Company.
So we're looking at B-roll footage that Disney had provided, and I think it's very interesting. I've never seen the inside of the warehouse here before. You can see there's some Disney painting on the back. I didn't even know that this was a thing that existed, so at least I learned something from all of this.
Oh, about the Second Harvest?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew a little bit about it, but they do a lot for the community, so not just Second Harvest. But we're looking at salads and different items. But also, they sent a couple of interviews with those who are in charge of this from Walt Disney World and from Second Harvest Food Bank, and we will be listening to them in just a second. But we're just looking at a lot of produce.
Oh,
and
I see
everything.
a lapu lapu is ready to be made, and there's a nice look at the painting. So anyway, like you said, here's a little bit more information from the representatives from Disney and from Second Harvest.
Partnership between Walt Disney World Resort and Second Harvest goes back almost 30 years. Through our Disney Harvest program, we collect more than 800,000 pounds of food each year, which helps to serve more than 1 million meals throughout our community. This is an unprecedented time, and there is nothing that is more important to us than the well-being of our cast members, our guests, and our community. And we knew that with our temporary closure, this was the opportunity to give back to our community in a way that needs it most.
The donation to Second Harvest Food Bank from Disney is significant, especially at this time, at the onset of, this pandemic rolling out and really impacting our community. So the variety and the volume of food is incredible, but it's going to be able to reach 60 to 70,000 people, so it is especially timely. Our longstanding partnership with Disney has various elements to it and benefits to it. Not only wonderful food donations, in large quantities and really good quality, but also from a volunteerism point of view. We can't accomplish our mission without volunteers. And then from a financial support point of view, for over 30 years now, Disney has been just a strong partner to this cause.
There aren't a lot of positives to come out of all of this, but that's one. So I thought that was nice. I like the truck here with Mickey and the gang
yes,
there.
little hidden Mickey going on, I think, with the oranges too.
Yeah, I hadn't even noticed that.
So you mentioned positives. Another positive is Onward.
Well, Onward came out into theaters 2 weeks ago, but because of this extended time that we'll be at home, it will be on Disney Plus on April 3rd. So that's in a couple weeks from now. But also, it will be on demand starting today for $19.99, which is actually a great deal if you have a family, but probably just to get Disney Plus. I think a lot of those who listen to us probably have it already.
Right.
So this, it's a nice thing. I don't know if we'll see other films from Disney with that, but I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, Disney Plus just added Frozen 2, and eventually, you have the latest Star Wars that we just got today for review. So
Right.
Who knows? So now we're going to look at some video that we had shot. This was actually shot the day that we found out that Walt Disney World was closing, and we're looking at the castle being repainted.
So we were there to cover the Disney Dreamers Academy, which is something that's really important that happens at Walt Disney World every year. But right now we're just looking at the castle painting.
And this is all in honor of Cinderella's 70th anniversary.
And they say that Disney says that Cinderella Castle is getting a royal makeover. We thought we'd see it once more during the weekend, but we didn't. We didn't go back into the park. So, but it looks nice. It's very similar as far as the pink and the blue to Disneyland's castle, which we'll be seeing at the end of the show. Except I think there's a lot more space actually being painted. Like if you look at the Sleeping Beauty castle, it's very wide with a lot of brick.
So you'll notice that pinkish color a lot more on this castle than you would at the Disneyland. And there is the final version of it, some concept art.
It'll be interesting to see how it really looks. Others did go into the park and took some photos and video of what it was looking like as it was being painted. But in person, we didn't see too much of the pink yet.
And I did see on TV they had the helicopters flying over the Magic Kingdom, and you could see they were still working on the castle, at least for the first 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. So I don't know if that continued or not.
It'll be interesting to see what happens as far as whether they keep on working a little bit on projects in the park. Now, this is the Disney Dreamers Academy. So this was supposed to be 4 days, and I wasn't sure if they would end up canceling it because a lot of conventions and such had been canceled recently, but they went on with the first day before they did end it on after that first day.
Right, and when it started, I thought, okay, I guess we're good. We're going to be in for a full 4 days. We had a very busy itinerary. This day, we did all sorts of things. We saw this parade. We tried some dining opportunities. We went over to Disney Springs. We got to look inside the NBA experience.
It was pretty much business as normal, except, I did try to keep away from people as I could and all that. Every day there's new guidelines. So we're just looking at, there were 100 high school students. It looks like most of them made the trip. And, these are, I don't want to say, these are students that excel, and they were here to learn leadership skills and, just things that they could do to job interviews and such, just to inspire them.
Well, you were
to
very
be better.
inspired last year when you attended the full conference.
And so that's why, we were covering it this year. And I hope that they're able to come back at a later time when the parks do reopen. There were characters, and this is just a pre-parade to Disney's Festival of Fantasy Parade. But it's really a nice kickoff to the event. And just like last year when I attended, it was as well.
Yeah, it's hard to believe this was only a little over a week ago, and it was almost, at that time, it was a normal day at the Magic Kingdom, and we were enjoying covering the event.
And I will mention, like, Steve Harvey, I believe he actually founded it. He's kind of the one who leads it, but in conjunction with Disney as well. And we're just looking at, the big mirror float, right?
This is the float that
never goes away.
That's right. It has been here forever. And it's one thing that's very nice. You usually see it in the Christmas parade.
Yeah.
Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas Time parade.
With the princesses. And so here we don't have any princesses, but we do have...
Oh, you have Donald and Daisy.
Yes, well, they're not
Daisy
princess.
To Donald, maybe.
And Chip and Dale and Donald and all that. And
more Dreamers, of course.
And the past week had been such a beautiful... You can see the weather was fantastic.
Still is.
It still is. We haven't had any rain or anything. So I think it was especially hard with everything going on. What beautiful days that we've had. So, but anyway, that's the mirror float, which hopefully we'll see again in December.
That's right. Once Upon a Christmas Time parade. Again, it's just interesting that this float has been here for so long.
And hopefully again we'll get rescheduled for the Disney Dreamers later. Maybe in a few months or the summer or so before they head off to college.
So next we're going to take a look at the France Pavilion from the last day that we were over there, and that was on a Saturday.
Right, and so we actually had been there when I landed from California that morning. I did a red eye, and so that was Tuesday, and so we were there, and then a couple days later I just wanted to take one more look at it, before we left. I was hoping that they would continue construction after we left, and when we'd go back eventually it would be open. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to, of course, to this expansion. It's the thing I'm looking forward to, I think, most on Walt Disney World property right now.
So we're about to go up in the Skyliner, and again, that was just this past Saturday. That's the thing we seem to do the most. We love riding the Skyliner because you get some great views of the pavilion.
Well, not only for that, I just love riding the Disney Skyliner.
Such a wonderful, relaxing ride.
It is, and so we're just heading over the construction area now, and you've got, there's going to be a table service and a counter service creperie here, which I think is even as more exciting maybe than the ride for some, because it allows for something a little authentic from France. So just not an IP ride, which actually I like in France as well. So you kind of got both of those. And also on the fountain.
You'll see it better on the return.
Yeah,
You're going to see that as well.
The glare here was not as good, and you can, except for the part you can see me a little bit better. But the fountain looks really nice. It's really coming along with those champagne bottles, and we'll take a look at that on the way back. And I guess we're on the way back now.
Yes, very quick.
I had not seen this footage yet, so I was taking pictures during this time frame. But this is just a fantastic view as far as coming in, and you're seeing Spaceship Earth, and you see Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, which
you can also see another beautiful day, as we mentioned, gorgeous day. Every day has been like this.
Right, and so it was scheduled for summer 2020. I thought that maybe the end of May, when Spaceship Earth was scheduled to go down for refurbishment. Obviously, that I don't even know if the parks will be open in May yet. So
There's
we'll
a closer look at the fountain. I see some rats on there.
Yeah, you've got Remy and champagne bottles, and similar to the one in France. It feels bigger though, so we'll see. When we're actually on the ground someday. And hopefully in a few months or so. And I have just been so much looking forward to the attraction. So I'm to the attraction and just to the expansion, because I'm such a big fan of France. So
Now we're
eventually.
jumping over to Disneyland, and this is some footage that you shot, and we're just setting it up. It's actually going to be on the omnibus, and you saw the omnibus coming your way. Now you're up on top at the very front of the omnibus for a relaxing ride. I thought it would be nice to see something nice and relaxing to end the show this week.
Yeah, I mean, I had a really great Disneyland trip. I enjoyed my time. The first few days were pretty empty because and just I'm just talking while we're watching this omnibus ride. The first few days were pretty empty because a big convention had canceled very last minute. I even switched to the Homewood Suites Anaheim because it was cheaper than the Best Western. It was a fantastic stay, and when Disneyland reopens, I highly recommend it. I loved it. And so here I am. I think the first few days were not that crowded. This day was a little more. So I was trying to do things that were a little, I was aware that wash your hands a lot and, keep away from other guests a little bit. And I was doing as much of that as I could. So I took the omnibus ride, and you can see it's a busy-ish day here. The first few days were not. The first few days were actually relatively empty, especially
because of that big convention canceling.
Yes, because
so
of
I mean,
that.
all of this was affected. I mean, your trip was affected by the situation with canceling that giant convention. I know
of
that
course.
happened here, but we never, at least I wasn't thinking the parks were going to be closing, or if they were, maybe just Disneyland, not so quick, certainly.
Well, the convention, again, they canceled probably a day before I left, and I hadn't realized it. So I was on the plane. I'm like, all of a sudden, like, hotels opened up. It was really hard to get a hotel at all.
Right, because of the convention.
Right. It was almost impossible. I thought I was going to stay in Buena Park, and instead I stayed next to the Toy Story lot, which was, it felt very safe over there.
Well, you had one night at Best Western, which is a fine hotel, but I mean, this worked out much better as far as location and you getting to and from your hotel at the end of the late nights.
It was a complete different experience as opposed to just going back to the hotel and, locking up and I really felt at home at the Homewood Suites, and I just, I've been wanting to stay at that one. It's near the convention center for a long time, so I was glad to be able to do that, but not for the reason
right, of course,
why it happened. So but anyway,
you're right, it is looking pretty crowded there,
but the first few days it was really empty, so I really thought that that's the way the rest of the last couple days would go, but like Monday was busier than anything. So I was really surprised by that. I thought, during the weekend I tried to kind of lay low, and I thought, okay, well, Monday I'll just do everything I want to do when it's less busy, but it was totally not that way. But here it was a beautiful day. The weather was beautiful the whole trip.
So now we're going to jump to your very last day before you came home, and you're now at Disney California Adventure doing something that we don't do on a regular basis. You're going to ride the Golden Zephyr.
And I mentioned that it was really busy. This was first thing in the morning. I was there at 8 a.m. or I think it was open at 8 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was here just a few minutes probably after that, just so that I could get some rides in. Before I thought it wasn't going to get as crowded, but I was noticing more guests already showing up at Disneyland by then. When I showed up, all of a sudden there was cars in the parking lot. So this is a Golden Zephyr. I don't ride this very often. We have not ridden this very often.
It usually closes. I think we just went by a sign that was saying it closes early for World of Color. And I think it has limited time opening.
I think also if it's windy or for other, of course, if it's raining, it's probably closed. But it just isn't something that I look at and say, oh, I really need to ride this. But, I actually enjoyed it. So I ended up riding it 3 times. I took a couple little clips at first just to show, people. And then I'm like, well, why not just record the whole thing? Because it's like a minute long or so. And it does give you nice views of, you can see Pixar Pier and the Pixar Pal Around and the Lamplight Lounge where I ended up. I did eat one day. I don't know if anybody's been to the Lamplight Lounge. I'm sure some of those watching have. But we really enjoy the Lamplight Lounge. I went there, I got potato skins and like a sangria or something.
I have never been to the Lamplight Lounge with you, and you'd not got potato skins.
It's all I got.
And we've been many times together.
It's the only thing I ate, and when it's just you eating potato skins, and they're almost like just potatoes. They're not like deep fried or something. They are so good, and
Well,
so
I
yeah,
always
they were-
say,
I was so full.
I always say, oh, they're all going to be for you. I don't want any. Don't I always end up eating half
You do
after
eat half,
saying
and you
that?
should, because I felt kind of blubbed afterwards because it's a lot of potato skins to eat. So I had a drink or two, and I just, it was a little cloudy because it was morning, and you know how it is in California. Sometimes that's what it looks like in the morning before it burns off. But it wasn't crowded yet, but it was starting to, and I was going to do the Pixar Pal around once more, but it wasn't working when I got over there.
Well, I have to say you did a great job. I mean, very nice video, very relaxing, fun to watch. And next time that we go to Disneyland, which I hope will be sooner rather than later, I want to ride this thing.
As soon as we're able to go, I want to go. Avengers Campus was scheduled to open in July. I don't know what's going to happen with that now, but there's things that I'd like to go back and do.
We have a trip booked right now, actually, at the end of April.
Yeah,
April 30th or so.
We were going to do the villains event, but whatever happens, as soon as we're able to, and it's healthy to do so, I definitely want to get back to Disneyland, and of course Disneyland Paris at some point.
Yeah, and let's cross our fingers. Hopefully it'll be this year. So that'll be it. Next week we're going to talk about the Epcot Flower and Garden Festival, because I thought it would be nice to do some normal type shows just for comfortingness. And I just like to see all that stuff myself anyway.
So as far as the Flower and Garden Festival, we actually have enough footage from like the last week to last a number of shows. The Epcot Flower and Garden Festival, you just put up a 20-minute, cut of it. And just to look at it, it makes me very happy that we have the photos and the video so we can share it, because I don't know if anybody else is going to be seeing it this year, so to have it on film, to have it, in photos as much as we could, in the small amount of time we had, I'm happy that we're able to do that.
And we want to thank our sponsor, MEI Travel and Mouse Fan Travel.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And check them out, when you're ready to start scheduling travel. We keep, like we mentioned, we have an April trip book, although I don't know if we're traveling in April. It may be not till May, if Knott's is looking at mid-May now or later, and that's kind of about what I was thinking, at least another couple months, and it could be longer.
But they've been working around the clock, to help people out. I mean, I know when you try to make calls to these places, the phone lines are hours and hours and hours, so it's nice to be able to have somebody do that for you.
Yeah, and I just to mention, MEI has been in the business for 20 years, and I have myself spent 6 or 7 years as a authorized Disney vacation planner, and that was what we did, is we helped we helped our guests, and to me it was really important, and I spent so much time with each guest because I really enjoyed that.
So in the coming weeks, we will still be talking more about Disneyland, because you have the new parade that you were able to see.
Right. Next week is probably, as long as we're healthy, and that's an important thing, is Flower and Garden is what we plan to talk about. And then after that, Magic Happens Parade and other Disneyland. Magic Happens Parade is terrific, and I ended up seeing it, I think 3 times, maybe 4 times, and I saw it during the day, I saw it at night, and then
our friend sent us the rainy day version of it,
and that was very interesting as well. So we have a lot of that, and other things as well, and also the Bowers Museum, which opened a Walt Disney Archives display with 465 items. We're going to talk about that. We have a lot of footage from that from a friend plus myself, because that's why I went out there. Originally was mostly for the Bowers Museum. So we'll be talking about that. And, Bowers Museum currently closed. So hopefully again in a couple months. But we have other stuff too.
Oh yeah, we can go. We have a lot. But if anybody is still listening and you have any questions that you'd like us to try to find out the answers to, or we can answer, please leave your questions in the show notes, and we can do that too. If there's anything that you want to see, any suggestions, then it looks like we're going to have some time to put some things together.
Well, if we have 2+ months, obviously you're going to be digging into your archives, and Jeff has like how many years of archives?
30 years.
30 years of archives.
1990 till now.
Yeah, so I told him I thought you should be doing maybe like a look back at the Millennium Celebration or a look back at the 25th anniversary of Walt Disney World, because you should have quite a bit on
Right.
that.
Once we get rid of all the current stuff, then we'll
Don't
start
say
to
get rid of,
Well,
but,
once we are done with that, we'll go into the archives.
I'm just glad we have, the Disneyland trip and, the Flower and Garden, and to be able to share things that just happened, up until just days ago. This has been an unbelievable time, and every day, it's a scary time and a sad time. And I just hope, I hope everybody who is watching and just stays healthy.
Right, that's the number one thing.
That's, to be able to enjoy what we love again in a number of months.
So thanks again for listening. Have a great week, and we'll see you all next week.
Have a great week.